Let's get educated. That's why we're here, to bring you the stories impacting K-12 classrooms and college campuses. It's time for a little education.
Well, hello, everyone. No, this is not a joke. We're really here, even though it's April Fool's.
No, we are live.
We are live.
We're not
here.
fooling.
I am Katie Petrick, and I am joined, as always, by David Fiorazo. And It's a whole new month. It's a new day, a new week, a new month. And we are live here on Educated. So as always, out there, if you could post your questions, your comments, your hopes, your dreams, your concerns, everything you ever wanted to say, now is your time. And we will do our best here to respond throughout the show. Now, quick poll. I want to know.
Yes?
With all of the technology that we have available at our little fingertips, do you think that kids are academically smarter today than they were 20 years ago?
No.
We'll come back.
Okay, sorry. Was I
on our
supposed
thoughts?
To guess?
In a second. So you think on that while David tells us who he talked to this morning on
Wow.
Worldview Matters.
WorldviewMatters.tv. We had Britt Gillette on. He's an author, and we talked about bankers and governments lying about the upcoming financial crisis, and he has the receipts to prove it. We even quoted the FDIC and watched a little video of them wondering if they should be transparent with the people. And when fascinating show with Britt Gillette, worldviewmatters.tv. Friends, I'll be speaking in Oshkosh, Wisconsin for you that live in Northeast Wisconsin, and that's going to be next Thursday at 6:30 p.m. at Calvary Sunrise Church in Oshkosh. We'll do a Q&A at 7:15, and we're talking about understanding and responding to today's attacks on the church, on the biblical worldview, on believers, and it'll be a fun night. So that's, again, April 11th, next Thursday, 6:30 p.m., and there's a Facebook event out there, and if you're watching by video, kind of go back, you can scan the QR code. There it is. Katie told me about those things.
Yeah, they're all the rage.
Yeah.
Everyone's doing it.
So please register.
QR codes. All right, well, the hits just keep on coming in the game of I told you so. As the New York Times confirms makeshift online learning, you know, all that stuff that we had to do, not we, but the children had to do during the pandemic, will actually have long-term effects on our students for the years to come, because that's what long-term effects actually means. I told you so.
Oh, brother. What I don't like about these stories is because they don't need, they meaning the left, the Marxist teachers unions and the socialists, and they don't need another reason to ask for more money to try to help, you know, kids learn, and I put learning in quotes, or to educate. But let's talk about this. Again, they're looking at the pandemic and saying, hey, it set students back more than half a year in math. Well, that's Katie. They must not have any scores in math now, because they were already
at this point,
abysmal.
Let's do the math on the math.
Yeah, let's do the math on how abysmal the scores already
it's like a
were.
half of a half of a half of a half.
So the elementary students fell behind, and just not elementary students. But let's watch this video. We'll come back. We'll talk about it.
Despite the fact that kids suffered the least serious COVID-related symptoms, they suffered the greatest under COVID-related restrictions and requirements.
Drastic setbacks for the nation's education system, as students' test scores are now on par with statistics from nearly 2 decades ago.
Anybody who's been paying attention knows that the remote learning and the COVID years were not good for student achievement, and they were especially difficult for those that were on remote learning.
Mark Laurie is the superintendent of Niagara Falls City School District. He says while all students have been impacted, some demographics have been hit harder than others.
The Black and Hispanic community were the ones that really were more apt to be on remote learning. There was a lot of concern in those communities about the disease, a lot of sometimes misinformation, a lot of lack of communication to those populations about the disease.
The report shows Black and Hispanic students saw the most significant drops of 13% and 8%, compared to 5% for white students. However, decreases were more uniform in reading, falling 6 percentage points for all three populations.
Okay, so COVID bad, lockdowns bad. he used the word misinformation on what COVID itself was, the symptoms and how serious the disease was. This was chaos throughout the world, actually worldwide, thanks to the WEF and the globalists and Anthony Fauci.
Ouchie,
Sorry,
ouchie,
I made Katie
ouchie,
cringe when you
ouchie,
say, ready?
ouchie.
Watch Katie, ready? Fauci. Okay, so, but this is a problem. So he used misinformation, and there was a lot. But now, interesting, Katie, we are learning a lot about what actually happened, how serious COVID actually was, and the lockdowns. Many of them could have been either avoided or minimized or shortened, but no. That for whatever reason and their purposes, the teachers' unions decided, and the education system said, nope, keep the kids at home. I mean, let's remote learning. Let's do this. And now they're learning how bad it was and how much of an effect it had by math scores. I mean, math, as we already said at the beginning, these scores were already bad.
Yep.
And America has fallen just dramatically. And let's just look at these charts. Let's just see what, according to this drop, did. This is 3rd grade through the 8th grade. Katie, help us make sense of this. Go ahead.
Is it because I actually understand math a little? Okay.
Yes, and you can do charts better than me.
Okay, so at the very bottom, you have the percent of learning that was done either remote or hybrid. Okay. So basically, if you spent 0 to 10% being remote or hybrid learning, your learning loss was about a third of a year, 0.35.
Okay.
Okay.
Even I can understand that.
But those people, those students who suffered the most, also were the ones who were in hybrid or remote learning the most, where they're claiming 0.57 years behind, more than a half year behind where they should be. So now students need to go to school. This is going to be the argument, and this is what the federal government education department has wanted, to keep the kids going to school longer. Oh, well, clearly we're behind, and it's all the pandemic's fault. Of course.
Right.
So now they're going to push for, why don't we just have the kids come for a 14th year? If you count kindergarten, that's 13 years of school, K-12. A 14th year. Arnie Duncan has wanted this forever and for always.
Mm-hmm.
Remember Arnie Duncan back in the Obama days, which is much to say today day? This is the goal, is to get the kids for even longer and for them to learn even less. And so far, it's working.
Yeah, Adrian chimed in. He's over in the UK watching. He's, instead of remote learning, he said remote grooming. More like it.
You call a spade sometimes.
Yeah. So we want to shout out to Luz and Adrian and let's see, Richard. And
hi, everyone.
Me. Deanne, thank you. Oh, was that not supposed to? Anyway, and thank you guys just for following us on Facebook Live. We're up there live right now, and we're talking about a couple different stories here. We talked about how scores have dropped, and they're blaming COVID. And watch. They're going to ask for more money.
Oh, of
an
course.
Increase. They're going to ask for a raise.
We need to raise the scores, more money.
Yep.
We need
to
raise
make
the
up
scores,
for the falling
more money.
Scores.
We need to.
Here's more boxes and numbers.
Yep, this is the math
you get
scores.
To break down,
Again,
Katie.
This is the math scores, 3rd through 8th grade. We're talking about the average in dropping, right? And we're talking about when it comes to money. So the richest districts versus the poorest districts. And we have a breakdown between, were they in person or were they mostly remote and hybrid? And overwhelmingly, the poorest districts, whether in person or remote and hybrid, suffered more, have had a greater drop in their math scores. And it was the worst for the poor districts that went mostly remote and hybrid, with it being 0.64 years behind, like almost 2/3 of a school year behind where they're supposed to be. And of course, this is going to come down to, it's all racism. And then it's classism, and it's going to be sexism at some point. But it's going to be, this is why we need more money. This is why we need more money. Give us more money for the schools.
If they're already...
And the money doesn't ever get down to where it needs to be. And they also don't need as much as they think they need, because the money never goes down to where it needs to be, because they are just giving it all to the teachers' unions, who then turn around and spend it on themselves. So that's my case.
Yes. Stay on that soapbox. No, I'm kidding.
Yep.
So let's move on to the next story, because COVID is still the topic. And this is, I mean, what year is this again, Katie? 2024.
2024, yes.
So we're talking about
that,
COVID-19, and the big year was 20. 48 colleges are going to require the COVID vaccine. Now, this is interesting. 4 dozen in the U.S. maintain a vaccine requirement despite the CDC loosening protocols for the virus earlier this month and ongoing concerns about possible side effects and the overall effectiveness, or lack thereof, they should say, of the shots. Okay? So this tally is maintained by No College Mandates. It's an organization critical of the requirements, and let's just look at what we've got up on the screen there.
We got a big old list.
Yep, there's the list.
I am shocked, said no one, to see so many California schools.
Did you say I am shocked, said
no
no one?
one.
Said
yes,
no one.
On this list. I am a little interested. I get that in Georgia, we're talking in the Atlanta area, so okay,
Big
fine.
cities. University
but,
of California.
Yeah. Where all of these are doesn't shock me. I guess there's still ones that I'm like, you see some of them on there, but then you're like, oh, well, if that one's on there, then surely some of the other more leftiest leaning ones would be on there. But there's been a lot of pressure for them to actually get rid of it because, it actually isn't needed.
Well, let's talk about
the science.
Science in air quotes. Science in air quotes. More inconvenient information. One study of apparently 99 million vaccinated individuals revealed, quote, safety signals for myocarditis, pericarditis, Guillain-Barré syndrome, and cerebral venous sinus thrombosis. My goodness. I'm having a hard time with some of these.
It's science words.
But these are some of the things that increase dramatically for some reason.
We don't know.
For some reason.
They
increased dramatically. Another study found that those who received the COVID vaccine were more likely to contract COVID than individuals who were previously infected with COVID. And we would call that natural immunity, which didn't get much traction at all, even though it's historically true and proven. I remember Rand Paul, God bless him, Rand Paul trying to go to bat and debate Fauci and talk about natural immunity, talk about these things and the effects of what COVID was doing, what the shots were doing. And our government and others, they just, they suppressed it. They suppressed it. Yep. So, so the fact that a lot of these colleges now are still requiring, to me, this is one of those stories that's just, it's not a head scratcher because, there's an agenda behind it.
Well, and the agenda is shown put the list back up and you see there's a couple of those universities that require it. What is the one and it's called Johns Hopkins. Oh, Johns Hopkins. How have I heard that before? Johns Hopkins.
Yeah.
Oh, yes. It's only like the premier medical university, and yet they are still requiring this. And they're supposed to be the science, if you will.
Well,
and this is why I keep saying that we are in trouble as a nation 10, 15 years from now, when maybe it's still a couple boomers and then the old Gen Xers who are the doctors with some sort of sense up there, but maybe not anymore. They're gone, and all we have left for doctors are these ones who are getting their degrees at apparently now Johns Hopkins, who's not following science and just doing all the DEI stuff.
And there are reasons for that. You said it. We did a story on DEI, the NIH, National Institute of Health, giving, for example, University of Michigan money for their DEI program.
Yes.
This is interesting because the NIH has also awarded Rutgers and Johns Hopkins University $155 million in fiscal year 2024. And this is so they're requiring the vaccine. So the what does the National Institute of Health have to do with universities? Well, we're finding out they're funding a lot of this, and this is just the way it goes. So we've got to move on to the next one. Still to come, These days, it seems more students are becoming distracted by their cell phones in school, no surprise. But new technology is hoping to eliminate that problem while encouraging old school face-to-face discussion once again. Imagine that back in 30 seconds.
Today's episode is brought to you by Freedom Project Academy. Looking for a K-12 classical online school built on Judeo-Christian values? FPA is enrolling now for the fall. Request your free information packet at freedomforschool.com. That's freedom, F-O-R, school.com. Oh, sorry, are we supposed to? Oh. No, I don't actually have my cell phone, but that is what is happening in the classroom. So, again, on the list, hey, David, over here.
Huh? What?
He's not focused.
Oh,
I tell
sorry,
you.
I was on my phone.
On the list of, should have always been. We have so many lists around here. The I told you so list, should have always been list.
The misinformation
Schools around
list.
the country are banning the use of cell phones in the classroom. Why
Really?
now? Right? Why now
Wow.
are we doing this? Well, of course, it turns out that they are distracting to students. And some states are even locking the phones up so that the students can pay attention. Take a look at this.
Power your phone off.
New this year, middle and high school students now forced to lock away their phones before the bell rings.
When do they get it back?
2:45.
2:45.
Right.
Principal Gary Hall pushed for the policy and the pouch to enforce it.
They were texting, tweeting, you name it, while classes were going on.
Put it in the pouch, then.
Here's how it works. At the beginning of the day, students put their cell phones in these pouches.
Once it's locked, it is really hard to get back open.
They can keep it with them, they just can't open them. They're sealed.
There you go. Have a good day.
This unlocking magnet, the only thing designed to free them. It's not completely foolproof.
We found a lot of cell phone cases with no phone.
For students,
Show of hands, who doesn't like the pouch?
it's a painful adjustment.
I just love watching TikTok, so I gotta have my phone.
Why don't you like the pouch?
I don't like the pouches because like, when I'm in math class, I like to take pictures of the notes and stuff.
What's your favorite part?
We communicate more with each other now that our phone be locked up.
It make me pay attention and I don't got my phone.
Who would be using their cell phone if it weren't for the pouch? That's a lot of hands. What would you be doing?
Cheating.
Montgomery Public Schools isn't alone. The maker of the pouch, Yonder, says they're seeing an estimated 150% increase in schools using them in 2023. Now working with over 2,000 schools across the country.
Well, I did like the one young man that said, I'd like to take pictures of the notes for the assignment.
Yeah.
And he looked like he was believable, but...
Yes, they all say it. However, actual stats have shown that the act of you writing the notes instead of taking pictures of the notes and then pretending, you actually learn more.
You are old school.
I am. Yeah, call me old-fashioned. I also can do some math.
It does help you learn.
I can read and write.
It helps you learn to write it out.
So the fact that, like, Wall Street Journal, like, a big newspaper is the one who came up with this article. It's not just some local municipality newspaper trying to be like, we should lock our cell phones up, It is drawing some attention to it. And it is very true that our students are so distracted and so lonely and so unable to communicate with one another face to face. This is a good thing. They are looking up out of their laps and having to see the world around them.
Eye contact.
I am 100% behind this, and I have, because I've been in the classroom where the kids are just Snapchatting one another. They're not paying attention. They're playing games. They're texting their parents, and you should. This is an instance where I'm like, parents, get out of the classroom, because it's, hey, what time am I picking you? Not what time am I picking you up today? It's like, what time this weekend are we going to go over to our, your cousin's house and play this or do that, whatever. Or, hey, I'm on Amazon right now. Do you think we should get this for the family? Or they're doing things they shouldn't. If you need to get a hold of your kid, call the office. The office can get a hold of your kid.
True.
But then I get it. You're going to come at me with, well, what about on the other side where we wouldn't be able to catch the teachers doing all the bad things?
That's an interesting thought. No, that really is.
It is, but I think our kids aren't learning, and so what's going now is not working. So why don't we go back to before that? I mean, correlation, not causation, but the rise of the crazy in the classroom is with the rise of cell phone usage too. There's obviously it's
so
not
you're saying
causation.
some might act out because of the cell phones and
well, the violence with the
videos
students part, yes. The teachers are still going to teach some of the nonsense.
Yeah.
But this is where we do need parents to be looking at their kids' homework, to be looking at the curriculum, to be actively engaged, not just be like, well, my kid will just take a video of it and show it to me later. So there's that. That's how I feel about it. What does everyone else feel about it? You tell me, because you could claim that I'm wrong. I am okay with that. Yeah, that's what I have to say on it.
All right.
All right. Well, I guess we'll just pause there with that thought. You let us know what your thoughts are. But in the meantime, we have the Babylon Bee headlines to discuss, and we need you out there to pick a winner.
Vote.
Vote often and early. Oh, wait, no. Stay with us.
If you have a smartphone, tablet, Roku, or Apple TV, consider downloading the Freedom Project Media app. It's 100% free and includes all of our weekly shows, plus lecture series, archive programs, and award-winning animated videos for families like the Presidential Minute, Battles of America, and Heroes of the West. Don't rely on the social media giants to keep you informed. Simply download the Freedom Project Media app from your app store and allow notifications. And we'll let you know when a new video is ready.
All right, before we wrap up this show for the day, let's take a look at everyone's favorite satire site, the Babylon Bee.
Here are this week's top 5 Babylon Bee headlines.
All right, friends watching on Facebook Live right now, get ready to vote for your favorite. We've picked ours. Actually, we have not seen them yet. We leave that up to our producer, and you get to vote number 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5. Let's start with the first headline. Aides wake Biden to play that fun president game again. Number 2, Biden condemns Jesus for rising again on Trans Day of Visibility.
David's going to go off on this one.
Number
Next,
3.
Continue.
Number 3, Biden grants Day of Visibility to segment of the population with the most visibility in all of human history. Number 4, not to be outdone by Trump, Biden releases his own version of the Quran. And finally, number 5, at Manhattan fundraiser, the boys reminisce about all the good times they had together on that other island. Oh, that's funny. Anyway, so all of our friends watching, which one do you like the best? You can see them right there. Man, to me, there's a definite tiebreaker that I'm going to have to decide on. But let's go over to Katie. Which one did you?
I mean, the one I had the most reaction to is number 5. Because, Manhattan is an island, and when
Epstein
you have
Island?
Obama,
Epstein Island?
but Manhattan's an island. So then you
Manhattan
have,
Island.
Yeah, so they're on on Manhattan Island. You have Obama, Biden, and Clinton all together. But then they're talking about that other island, which Epstein Island.
Okay.
So that was why I said, on that one. But number 2, I mean, I read that one and thought, David's yeah. The fact that Biden actually did this, and why isn't there more outrage about it? Just because we're that society where we're like, okay, whatever, continue on.
I mean, number 1 is sad because they have to wake Biden to remind him. Oh, you have to do some presidential.
Again.
You have to do some presidential stuff today. But I'm gonna go with number 3.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's mine. Biden grants Day of Visibility to segment of the population. Understand, we've got, what is it, a point whatever, 0 something 2% of the American population is transgender. And don't quote me on that. It might be a fraction more or less. But they've got the megaphone of the media. They've got the entertainment industry, Hollywood. They've got the government schools. They've got the Democrat Party. They've got corporations. And they've got to have a day of visibility. So, yeah, that would be mine, number 3. Let's go over to the friends that are watching on Facebook Live. Liz says number 2 and number 3. Thank you. Richard and me says number 2.
Richard.
It's going to wrap up our top headlines of the week. We could elaborate on them much more, because what Biden did by really just flipping the middle finger to the majority of Americans who believe in the resurrection of Jesus Christ. Some call it Easter, but the death, burial, and resurrection of our Lord and Savior, to just thumb his nose, I like to say flip people off, and just say, hey, let's make Sunday the transgender day of visibility. Let's talk about the visibility of Jesus Christ when eyewitnesses saw him for 40 days after he was raised from the dead. There were eyewitness testimony. You can read that in 1 Corinthians chapter 15 and even the first chapter of the book of Acts. But we need to move on. Thank you guys. More satire next time. I got on I made time to get on my soapbox.
Woo!
Sorry. No, I'm sorry, not sorry.
He ain't no fool. Even though it's April Fool's Day, he ain't no fool. All right. Well, if you enjoy our content, if you would consider subscribing to our audio podcast and weekly media e-blast, it contains all of the top stories of the week. All you have to do is go to stayeducated.org. It's that simple. Now, for David and myself, thank you for watching, thank you for listening, and thank you for supporting all what we do. Until next time, stay educated.